Haere mai e te whānau. Welcome to the Flight of the Next podcast. My name's Holly. I'm on a very chilly Gadigal land in Sydney, as is Danny, and in Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland, we have Erin. We're going to wrap up the women's season today. We will talk first of all about the grand final itself and then have a bit of a season review. So all three of us went down. In fact, all of our pod regulars went down. Alex made it over as well. Jeremy was down. What an occasion. Amy Stadium, huge crowd. We had a really good turnout at Pink Lemonade beforehand and after the case as well. So well done to Nicknicks and everybody who got involved in making that work, the people who brought the drum over and the flags over and all those sorts of things. It was really well run. We had a great time until we started losing, in which case it was like, we'll just keep it going. But oh my God, 3-1 loss. Let's see. So it was interesting that VAR was used for the first time in the dub. So we can actually talk about that, or Danny can tell us how much he hates VAR. But there was actually intervention by VAR in the 5th minute in which it looked a little bit like maybe Vic had fouled Briley Henry, but that was not called as such. I think we played pretty poorly in the first half, to be honest. 41st minute, my least favourite, Holly, just has way too much space at the top of the box. So right in the corner, I don't think she's even necessarily in the box, and Ali just stands really far off her, and she just hooks this really long shot over Vic. 2 minutes later, yet again, Flop Namara, she has a run from wide. She runs straight between two of our defenders, through with the ball, fires it past Vic Essen. So halftime, down 2-0, 49th minute, again, City with a goal. Letitia McKenna, this was another distance one. That was a cracking. That one was, I think, even better than the Holly McNamara goal. The first one she got, absolutely cracking goal from like the corner of the box on the other side. After that, we got into the game. I feel like 52nd minute, we did peg a goal back. That was none other than Michaela Woods. There was a corner played in. It popped out to, I think, Pinenberg, who plays back in. Mears touches it onto the bar and Woods gets there first. So immediately up, picking the ball up, running back to get started, to try and get back into it. And we just couldn't. We played so much better in that second half when we first scored that goal. But it was not enough. You're not going to break down City like that. So we had a XG of, this was crazy. The XG was City 0.81 and our XG was 2.80. We had a lot of really, really good chances, but we just struggled with them early. They got the goals and then we just we were second best over the span of the game. And that's it. We've lost 9 of the 9 games we've played, City. Let's start with you, Erin. You were there.
Yeah, vibes were good. It was such a good occasion. First ever grand final for the Phoenix. So, regardless of the result, I think we were already hyped for it. And I think that kind of quickly disappeared a little bit at the start when they had that VAR call. They had a couple shots which went off the crossbar and they were just pretty relentless. They were coming at us time and time again. And I think that we really struggled to get it out of our half. We struggled to keep it. And City were just showing their class. We know they're a good team. That's why they're in the final. That's why they won the league. And we didn't quite step up in that first half. We didn't really start strong. We weren't really playing our game. And yeah, that 40th minute to the 49th minute really killed us. 3 goals in that time period. And I think in a grand final, you can't be conceding 2 goals in 2 minutes like that because that's basically a game loser for you. And a very interesting decision from 2 of those goals to stand off the player with the ball and let them take a shot. I'm not sure what was going on there, but it was just too slow to close it down, and you can't really give City space. They're good everywhere, so you just have to be better than that. And then, unfortunately, by the time we'd gotten into in that second half, it was probably a little too late. We were down 3, and it was always going to be a hard battle to get back into it, but. Credit to the girls, though. I think that they played right till the very end. I don't think you can go away from that game saying that they didn't put in a strong effort because right till the end that they were going for it. And I feel like even in the 80th minute, I was just like, can we do it? Like, is there something coming here? Are we going to kind of, you know, get something from it just from the intensity of how we're playing and the occasion? You know, City have been here before, they know what it's like to play finals. And I think that that kind of experience and the home advantage and all of that really played to their favor, and we just couldn't match up with it. So, all credit to them. They were the better team on the day. They were a better team across the season, and I think they, deserved to win that in the end. But it was great to be there, great game to see, and I have no doubt that the Knicks will be back next season to try to fight for that and win it.
It's really hard to for us who went to separate the occasion from the result, because the occasion was great. It was a great day out. Really enjoyed it. Had a lot of fun, but we lost. And let's be honest, we were well beaten. We were never really in that game. City won, and they won convincingly. And you can ignore the stats, because the stats don't tell the story of the game. Stats are strange when you look at it when you've seen the game, because City were always sort of there or thereabouts. Mm. They were relentless in the first half. We couldn't get anything going up front. We couldn't get any combinations between Michaela Woods and Lucy Leon or for the wing. Brooke Nunn didn't get much forward. Manaya Elliott was back, all the way back, didn't get forward at all, and they managed to close down Pia Block as well. So we weren't creating anything going forward at all. So they had all the ball, and they were getting down our wings, and especially down past Manaya Elliott almost with ease. Elliott she tried hard, but it was going past her all the time. Van der Meer had to come out a lot to come and help her, but they were still getting crosses in. And it was just thinking, wow, this is not good. We're not creating anything. Can we hold on? Do we need to change something? And then they scored those two goals. And I'm going to push back a bit on the criticism of not closing them down. The XG of both those goals, of the first and the third goals, are really worldies, was 0.02 on each of those, which means that if you replay those 100 times, instead they'd only score them twice out of 100 times. 98 times out of 100, there's no way they're scoring from there. So the criticism, I think, is a little bit harsh, because they were spectacular goals and just amazing goals. And, really shouldn't have been able to score those, but, they did. And on another day, as I say, on 1998 other days, they wouldn't have scored those goals. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they didn't deserve to be in the lead at halftime. They certainly did. The second goal was us not playing the offside track well enough. Mike Barry sort of stepped up just a bit too late and realised she'd stepped up too late, and then wasn't able to get back, and McNamara went through and scored. And so 2-0 at halftime, it was like, this is not looking good. We'd barely had a chance. We didn't look like we were really creating anything up there. So something had to change. And Leon came off and Anthony came on, and suddenly we saw a lot more intensity going forward. We seemed to be putting them under pressure, and it was like, okay, maybe we can do something here. And then another XG of 0.02, and they score just another worldie. And once it goes to 3-0, it's just not happening, is it? You just sort of know that was it. We had that chance. We had probably a bit of hope for about 10 minutes or so, and then they scored that third, and then it was always going to be a set too much. But absolute fair play to the whole team. They continued on. They attacked with intensity. We created quite a few chances, some great crosses into the box. Peinenberg played really well, I thought. She was spreading the play across left to right all the way through. Good crosses in the box. Anthony had two headers that she probably would have liked to have done better with. Michaela Woods scored, obviously, and had another one. We hit the bar on one occasion. So, we went really close. Had we got a goal in, it would have made it very interesting. We didn't quite. And City just held us out in the end. The last sort of 5-10 minutes was like, okay, this is done now. So it was a really valiant effort, but I think City were just that much, just a bit better than us, realistically. And they got their two goals, those two worldies, which again, as I keep saying, they shouldn't have scored, but stats don't lie. And it's a shame. It's always a shame when you get to a final after a whole season of hard work, and we know how hard the team have worked and the stuff they've overcome, to lose it. But, I don't think there's not too many regrets really in that match, because they played probably as well as they could do against a very good side. A side who's got, the kind of resources, even more than the Phoenix. And we know the Phoenix have probably slightly more resources this year than a lot of teams, but, they have even more than that. And that showed in the end, just in terms of the quality right across the board that they had to pin us down. They picked a good game plan, which kept us in the first half. Bev fought back in the second half, I think, with her picks of taking people off, took Lock off when you think, you're going to take her off, but actually that improved. Macy Fraser came on. I thought she made a real difference when she came on, attacking wise, but we just couldn't pull back that 3-goal deficit. Had it been 2, I would have had a lot more confidence, but it was 3 goals. So we lost. It was disappointing, but I don't think many people who went and saw that were hugely disappointed, or, we gave our all. We just didn't win it. And the day, as I say, the day itself was such a great day and just showed the kind of support the Phoenix has or can have. We're overseas in a different country. We take far more than the home crowd. We're a lot louder. Everyone's having a great time. Perfect behaviour. Just so much fun. Both before the match in the pub, at the match, and after the match in the pub as well. Great day out. I really enjoyed it. Next year we'll go one step more, yeah?
Absolutely, a great day out. I think the team were devastated. They were really devastated after. I think particularly Michaela, she was very upset. Like, she was bawling her eyes out for quite some time. Most of the team didn't really want to come and talk to us. They came over and, just stood and thanked us. Not too many actually came over. They were, like I said, really, really, really upset. They'll be back next season, I'm sure. Hopefully that one happens in Wellington. But we did ourselves proud as a crowd as well, I think. Very, very loud, massive turnout. At one point, we were doing the Tu Tera Mai Na Iwi song, and the was like roof trembling. It was so good. You can hear it if you watch back on the broadcast. There's just like all of a sudden like this scream of like, oh, we're out of that stand. It was a great occasion. Any more thoughts on the grand final?
Yeah, I think the travel that the girls had to do as well, Brisbane, back to Wellington, back to Melbourne, and Melbourne City had that kind of derby playoff as well. They got to stay in Melbourne and play against Melbourne Victory, then stay in Melbourne and play again. And then, they do have a busy schedule. They were on the plane again the next morning to the Asian finals. But yeah, it's just a big testament to the work rate and the effort that they've put in all season. I think Ali Walker's probably played almost every single minute of the season. And I think Mac and Marissa would be up there as well. So yeah, huge effort from them, and yeah, I don't fault their efforts at all. I think that they worked hard for every single one of those minutes, and so, very, very tough finals for them. I think they probably made it a little bit tougher for themselves, especially Michaela missing in that last bit in regular time against Brisbane Roar, just to give them that extra 30 minutes of intense football that they had to play. Not saying that would have changed the final result or anything, but you could see that they put everything out on the pitch. And so hopefully they use this nice big off season to just do some relaxing and recovery and, come back fit and strong and ready to go when the season starts up again.
I was just thinking, I mean, the crowd was just a tick under 7,000, I think. And I just thought, what would it have been had it been in Wellington? And I think it probably would have been double that at a minimum. And that would have been really something to see. 7,000, not the highest grand final crowd they've had, but not one of the lowest either at all. I think he's up there in the top 4 or 5 grand finals they had. But just seeing the amount of Phoenix fans over there, just imagine if that had been in Wellington, that would have been really something special. So I think that's something to aim for this next season. A home grand final, see the women packing out Sky Stadium for Henry Stadium would be really, really great.
I think not just Wellington as well. I think Brisbane would have had a huge crowd if they got to host a grand final, and I think Canberra as well. Those games all getting massive crowds for the semis and the prelims, and so, I feel like it would have been interesting to see how much, these teams who have kind of haven't played finals in a while, how much they could have pulled in, because, a crowd for 7,000 for a team that's on the verge of winning a treble. I mean, it's not, it should be higher than that. You're the biggest city in Australia. Show some support for your women's team. But that's all I'm going to say, because I accidentally called them soulless online and I got in a bit of trouble for it. So,
and they only got 7,000 because we were there. Had they been playing Perth, for example, I reckon you're talking 4,000.
Yeah, they definitely had a disappointing turnout. I think even post-match when they were with their fans celebrating with their 2 trophies, there was still more of us in our end patiently waiting to see if like any of them would come over that we could like give them support. So yeah, that's the way it is. And they did not get their treble. They lost the Asia, so no treble for them, but they are pretty pleased with the 2 pieces of silverware that they have. I don't understand why Melissa Barbieri put her gloves on for the celebration. This is an entire different rant, and well, let's not get into it. I understand if you've just played and you've had your gloves on, leaving your gloves on for the celebration, but Melissa Barbieri literally pulled her gloves on at the final whistle to celebrate the whole celebration with her gloves on. I don't get it. Very strange. Anyway,
Sponsorships, maybe she gets every minute that the gloves are on screen, then she gets a little bit of bank because she's got to be retiring soon, right? She's ancient. She's got to bring in all that extra cash while she can.
Anyway, I just saw it and I was like, why are you doing that? Anyway, so yeah, let's chat about the season generally. I think really that sort of starts with that worst kept secret, which was signing Bev Priestman for 2 seasons. She'll be back next season. I feel like I'd be interesting to hear what you guys have to say, because we talked about that at the beginning of the season, how we felt about having Bev, because we knew she was an excellent coach, but there was still like maybe a little bit of bitterness about what had happened at the Olympics for some people. I know I had felt a little bit that way. So it starts with, I think, more than anything, with Bev and she's the only woman head coach in the league. And also our 2 assistant coaches are women, which is, well, nobody even has a head coach that's a woman apart from us. So I think that, Bev has been there's been a Bevolution as per the t-shirts and the banner. Should we talk about some of the other signings, I guess, leading into the season? So we had our visa signings were Luthia Leon, Brooke Nunn, Samba, Tessel Mitar, and Ali Walker. Now, obviously, Samba and Tessel got injured, and they were replaced with more visa players. That was Michaela Woods and Mackenzie Anthony. How do you rate? I know it's weird to split the visa players out, but how do you rate like Bev's season and those big visa signings?
I thought that we had about a 50% success rate with the visas. I think Brooke Nunn was probably the best of the bunch, just because she, I knew her quality playing for the Mariners, and I think that we kind of got that. And I think Michaela Woods was an excellent pull to get halfway through the season on an injury replacement. I think that she was kind of the perfect player to bring in. I think she had an insane work rate. You know that she's there to win. She wants to win. She fights till the end, and she, if I think if we gave her more time, more games, she would have been top goal scorer. And yeah, incredible signing there. I think, Samba brought in good crowds. I think the hype around her, it was exciting. I wish we kind of got to see a little bit more from her. Unfortunately, she got the ACL injury, but I think the team struggled to kind of find how to play with her, because you can see that she's quality, you can see that she's got a lot to offer, but I think that the way the team was trying to play didn't quite suit how she was playing as well. And I think Thea Leon was better when she played for Adelaide. I was excited to see her sign, but I don't think she really brought too much to the team. I think that for a visa player, I think that we can probably find a better person for that position. Can't really speak on Tessel Madag. Good 45 minutes from her. And I think she's been working in the back office with some game analysis stuff and coaching and support and everything. I'm sure she would have done well in the league. I think from what I heard of her from preseason, she was a pretty tidy player. Unfortunately, we couldn't get that out of her. But yeah, and then Anthony as well, another injury player. I think that she was an interesting one. I think that she played a different kind of role than what we would expect from, I guess, a striker. She put in a lot of hustle. She put in a lot of work rate. I think off the ball, she was doing a lot as well, but that doesn't often show, I think. When you're watching a game, you're like, why isn't this player scoring? Why aren't they doing more? But I think the work that she was putting in was often unseen, which doesn't quite work well for a forward player, because usually they're measured on the goals they're scoring or the assists that they're setting up. But I think she was always kind of there, and maybe like the second phase, or, the assist to the assist to the assist when she was playing, or she put on the pressure to enough pressure for someone else to win the ball. And so I think that she did play a part. Perhaps she could have played a bigger part, but I don't think that she was the most awful visa player we've ever had.
I mean, I don't think we had any real flops in terms of our visa players. They've all contributed, and they've all, I think when they've played, they've earned their place in the side. And if you think about the two that we got from other A-League clubs, so Brooke Nunn and Lucia Leon, of those two, I was probably more excited about Lucia Leon. I thought she was really good against Adelaide, really eye-catching. Whereas Brooke Nunn is like, oh, well, she's coming from a team that won the title. She can't be too bad. But Brooke Nunn has been, I think, been definitely one of our best players, if not our best player for the season. She's just been so effective and so good consistently all the way through. Whereas Lucia Leon, I don't think has reached the heights that we probably saw in the A-League last year. She certainly had a part to play, and there were times, when she was very good in terms of connecting our midfield with our attack. But it was clear, you see, she would come off at halftime quite often if things weren't working. So it was obviously she played a role that Bev wanted to play, but if that wasn't working, which sometimes it didn't, she'd then be replaced by someone else who did something else. So she wasn't able to be effective, 100% of the time. Like when we were playing a team that suited the way that we played with her, looked good, but there was often times when she just wasn't able to get into the game and provide anything. But again, she still played her part, because there were times when she was good. Michaela Woods, has just been awesome, because she came in and she scored straight away. And even Samba, again, who is, the bigger name, she came in and it was taking a while. And we only won one game in our first 5. We could see that Samba was good, but, again, as you said, Erin, getting her to play, or getting the team to play with her, or working out how they do that, it was taking time. And we could see that she could score. She got a couple of goals. But Michaela Woods came in straight away and was scored, and her score was like 1 and 2 since start, which is phenomenal. So again, if you say now, if you could only take one of them for next season, I think most people say, well, we'll take Michaela Woods because we know exactly what she's going to get. The fact that Samba is here next season, if she's fit, then great, because we know she's a quality player as well. So how we play two together, interesting, but not a bad problem to have. I thought Mackenzie Anthony was good as well. Again, she's not sort of the headline maker, but she had a definite role to play in the squad. And, when she came on, because she started one game, but she came on subbed quite a lot. She came on to do a particular job, and I thought she did it very well. She's incredibly hardworking. She ran around an awful lot. I thought she linked up really well with Michaela Woods. I thought the two of them played well together. And you could see, for example, in the grand final, when it wasn't happening with Lucia Lowe, Mackenzie Anthony came on and was probably, I don't know, I haven't seen the stats, but she probably touched the ball as much as anybody else, or probably more than anybody else on the side in that second half, because she was just everywhere, just trying and battling and doing whatever. So, again, not a headline grabber, but I thought she worked well in the context of the team and did a particular job which other players weren't able to do. Tessa Middag had, again, very high hopes for her. And I think, probably that's our most consequential injury. We've had a few. We might talk about all the injuries we've had, but probably the most consequential one that we've had, because, she was going to be the midfielder we're going to build the entire team around. With the experience she's had, she was going to run that team, and she didn't. And let's be honest, our midfield has been our weak point all the way through the season. We've never really managed to replace that. We've had a really good defence. We've had great up front, but midfield has been if there's one area of the side that's let us down, it's been midfield. I'm not saying it has let us down, but it's not as strong as we would like to have been. And I think losing Tessa Middag and then CJ Pott as well is one of the reasons for that. So I don't know. I don't think she's signed for next season yet. I don't even know if she's fit or whether she's still playing. But if she does get fit, again, I don't see why we wouldn't have her in the side if we can. She's clearly had a great career. She's a good professional. Ellie Walker, I find it hard to talk about Ellie Walker or in fact about Mackenzie Barry or Van der Meer without talking about all three of them together. Because again, they played I think probably every match as a back three, and they were such a unit. They played so well together and worked, as a unit together. It's hard to sort of pin out, okay, they were outstanding or they were outstanding, because they just played so well together. Our goals conceded in the was the lowest in the league, which says something. We've never been anywhere near like that before, and those three are a big part of it. Because again, wide we generally had Elliott or none on the wide, and they're attacking players, so it wasn't like we had a back five. That's why we didn't concede goal. But we had a back three most of the time, and just a back three because the two wide players were pushing up, and they still didn't concede many and just looked basically pretty comfortable all the way through. So, and Ellie Walker is a big part of that. So I thought she's done, again, really well. So, it's hard to look at those visa players and say, yeah, people didn't concede. There's one that should really stood out, but all the others definitely had a role to play in getting us to the grand final.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's a little bit funny to just sort of focus on the visa players, but we had 7 and it was so interesting to see how they did. I think, Erin's right. There were no flops. Some of them perhaps didn't play as many minutes as you might have thought. Ali Walker was the only person who played every single minute this entire season, and she was outstanding, like genuinely outstanding. Samba, didn't see much of her, really, to be honest. Like, we saw the flashes, and then she was gone. Tassel, I mean, we got a half out of her, although it sounds like she was working in the background and contributing in that way, which was really, really awesome. Kenzie Anthony, again, wasn't always starting, but played like a lot of hustle in the background, and a lot of those little feeding it to Michaela Woods. A lot of that came from her. Lou, I think she tried really, really hard, always put her heart into it. I really like her, but she didn't always quite fit what we needed for an entire match. So you'd see here the two sort of standouts of those, that Michaela Woods, she scored, if you include final series, she's the golden boot if you include final series. She scored 8 goals and she had further 5 assists. 8 goals, 5 assists in 15 games. That's good to just land and then straight away be honestly, imagine if we had her all season. The golden boot sort of winner, the biggest golden boot tally at the end of any season we've had up until that point is 10 from Mariana Speckmeier, and she played a whole season. She played way more games than that. Brooke Nunn, I would say I was a little bit skeptical when I saw she was signed, and I'm very happy to have been wrong. She was outstanding. She got Playmaker of the Year. She'd beat people, she'd stand them up, she'd just pause just right to play the assist through. Her assists were amazing. The one that she got Playmaker of the Year for the league, that was the Pia Vlock one at Sydney, where she just sort of waited and then lofted it over. But, in the that second assist she got for Michaela Woods in the semi-final home leg, she receives the ball and I think, the space, move into the space. I'm thinking, and she just hits it right away. And I'm like, oh my God. And it was perfect. So yeah, outstanding. I think 2 of our non-visa players that might be worth discussing, I think really directly, was obviously Pia Vlock, who was the league's young player of the year. And also I think Grace Jale sort of gets, not forgotten, but Grace Jale was, let's see, I wrote it down. Grace Jale has the second best FootMob average in the league, 7.68. So she is, again, FootMob, it's stats, but she was consistently at the top of that. I feel like she was maybe a little bit less, not flashy, but maybe not as noticeable this season because she was playing defensive midfielder a lot of time. So she wasn't really getting forward to score a lot of goals. I mean, she definitely scored goals, but Vlock, that's really exciting. And we still have her and she's still a little bit too young to go overseas. Jale, also also excellent. Thoughts on them and also just other outstanding players, and then we'll come back and we'll sort of talk about who we think our player of the season is. Danny?
Well, I mean, Pia Vlok, how many of us knew that name before the season started? This is really interesting when you look at when the season started, who we thought our team was going to be and our big names were going to be, and look see how it finished. We basically lost the majority of our first teamers. Yeah, five players of our first teamers from when we started the season, and we finished with other players. And again, one of our biggest stars of the league is someone even Phoenix fans have probably never heard of, and a 17-year-old Pia Vlok. And it's meteoric rise, as I say, and she's just so good. She's so talented, and if she can keep going and keep improving, then she's not long for this competition, and she's going to be, she has that ceiling which she's not there yet, but if she reaches the ceiling that you can see for her, she will be one of the best ferns that we've ever had, because she's just got so much ability there. So I mean, that was a really great in a season of really good surprises, if you like. That was a really good surprise to see her come through and do that. Jale has been really good, but you're right, it's been a different sort of role for her. She's not been the headline, whereas previously she's nearly always been the headline because she's played up front, or when she's good, she's really good. But she's been sort of I won't say overshadowed, that's not the right word. The position she's playing is sort of defensive midfielder, so she's had to stay back, do sort of the grunt work, the dirty work, but has done that consistently. We know how fit she is. She gets around, she's strong in the tackle, and she can make a pass, So, has been really good as well. But I think one player which we haven't mentioned a lot, but I think has been a large part of success, is Vic Essen. She's the best goalkeeper we've ever had play for us by a long way. I think she's quite probably the best keeper in the league. And the number of saves she's made have been impressive, but the number of saves she hasn't had to make is probably even more impressive, because she's in the right place. She knows where to be. She's got a good defence in front of her, and I'm sure she's a big part of organising that defence as well. And yeah, just has made a big difference in terms of, how vulnerable we are at the back, because we're not vulnerable at all. And she's been superb. And she doesn't get mentioned that much because, again, she's not always the super flashy saves, but she's been a really important part of that back line.
I remember I've done one commentating job before, and that was for the Kate Shepherd Cup Auckland United versus West Coast Rangers semi-finals last season. And I was on that call with Glenn Lum, and he was just like, Pia Vlok's on the bench, and she's a really, really good player. You'll see when she comes on. She's really young, but she's really good. And I was like, okay, cool. Well, I guess I'll remember the name. And now I won't forget that name. I think that she's just an absolute superstar. I think a 17-year-old with kind of that much confidence coming into a professional setting for the first time and just taking on players. I think the stats on SofaScore show that she's had the most successful, the highest number of successful dribbles in the league. If that kind of confidence is just insane, and to have her on, a 3-year deal, seeing that kind of talent and committing to them for a long time is great ambition from the club. We saw it with Macy Fraser as well, and yeah, it's huge. And I don't think she'll be here for all those 3 years. I think that we'll get another season out of her. She'll be even better next season, and then we'll get $10 million for her when she goes to Barcelona, because yeah, absolutely incredible and amazing player to watch. And it's just, I don't know, I feel like a proud parent even though I've just been watching her. I'm just like, oh my gosh, look at her go. And yeah, I agree with Grace Jale as well. I think that's probably her best season in the A-League. She's been there for 5 years now across different teams. And I think that she was our top goal scorer in that first season, but that probably wasn't hard because, we were pretty bad. And so, and she looked like a star in that team as well, because I think we weren't working with much. But now, with the team that we have around her, I think that it's elevated her game to a new level as well. And, she looks good because the whole team is good, and she is good. And that's a difficult position to play, CDM. I think it's one of those ones where if you're kind of playing well, people don't really notice you. You only really get noticed if you're playing poorly, because that's kind of where the player will come through. And you don't really notice her playing poorly because she's been that good the whole season. And I think it's the same with the men's game as well. I think Alex Rufer used to get a lot of stick because he plays in that same position, and it's quite difficult. You're playing you're linking up the defense line with the midfield, and you're kind of almost doing it all. And I feel like Grace Charlotte did that, and she did it well, and she did it consistently. And I think that's been hugely successful for us. And I think that she's probably just one of those players where you'd say, yeah, she's getting, high scores, but because there's always someone who's just kind of scoring those, 2 goals, or getting those assists, or doing something that looks better on paper, you kind of forget that she's actually been kind of balling out in the midfield there. So I agree. Incredible, just players across the entire park, which have linked the team together and just kind of made us as successful as we were this season.
Yeah, I definitely agree on that. And, Jolly was the club's player of the season as well. Is there anybody else that stuck out? I feel like it was interesting because Mania Elliott played every single game. But, like, sometimes I feel like she was less effective than she usually was, and then every now and then she'd step up with a big tackle. I felt like she had been more of a noticeable fixture, despite the fact that she would have played fewer games last season than she did this season. Does anyone have any thoughts on that or any other player? I just couldn't quite pick, for me, what it was that had changed.
I think she was taking on a few more defensive duties this year than
Mm.
probably last year. I mean, okay, she was playing a left wing back and she got forward a fair bit, but there were times where they thought, no, you're going to have to play. You're playing left back effectively. So she was more in a defensive role than I think in previous seasons when she has. Because she started out basically as a left winger, she sort of migrated back as her career's gone on, and she's now basically, she's vying with Lara Wall for that left wing back spot. So I think there's partly due to that she's not up front all the time, and she hasn't got forward as much because Brooke Nunn is probably really good at going forward. And if Brooke Nunn's going really forward, then she probably has to stay back a little bit just to cover that. So I think that's the reason. That's possibly the reason why. I would have liked to see her get forward a bit more and shoot a bit more because we know she can shoot. But you're right to say her tackling is a real strength. She's very strong in the tackle. She doesn't shy away at all, which actually not many people on this team do, which is good to see. And, and it looks like this is where Bev sees her as her position. So chances are, she'll be there again next year. It'll be interesting to see, if she can continue to improve.
My player to note is Emma Pynenberg. I think that, she came in at a difficult time for us. I think we lost Tessa Middag, we lost CJ, but she got pregnant. We lost Alyssa Winham, Macy Fraser was still out. So we kind of lost a core of the midfield there. And, we pulled in Emma Pynenberg, who I think took a while to find her feet in the team. I say that she was kind of getting knocked off the ball quite a bit at the start. I think she wasn't up for it, like physicality wise. And then we had an international break and she went away for the Ferns, and then she came back, and I think that she just peaked. I think that she started just to tie it all together. I'm not sure what Michael Main said to her or how she, what she learned when she was on the international break, but I think she came back and then she just, started to really, find her place in the team. And I think that that was critical for us because we were struggling in the midfield. And I think that if we didn't have her get settled, we probably wouldn't have ended up where we were, because she kind of came in clutch a bit. She was, in the final, she put the assist in. She started scoring. She put the critical passes through as well. So was very, very happy with how she ended this season after a little bit of growing pains at the start. So I think that she's one that if we can retain her, I think it would be good for us to keep her in the squad.
Yeah, she's when she first came in, it was quite clear she's not particularly strong in the tackle. And that was really obvious when she started. She was losing a lot of the ball in that respect. When people come through her, that was it. And she wasn't really good at winning the ball back in the tackle as well, which put a lot of pressure on Jale to do that, which she is good at as well. But what is obvious, you can see it, and has grown more in the season, is she just strikes the ball so well. She's so elegant. When that ball leaves her foot, it's just beautiful. Not just in shooting, but in her passing, and she's very calm. She gets the ball. she makes a space and plays balls around, and it's really nice to watch when she gets a ball. It's really elegant, really, you know. I'm thinking of these beautiful cover drives that cricketers play, and people say, "Oh, they're a beautiful cricketer to watch." Whether they're effective is another matter, but she's a beautiful footballer to watch in terms of the way she strikes the ball and strokes it around the pitch. And she definitely did get better. She had that one game where suddenly she decided she could score goals and scored a couple of amazing goals. It's like, wow, I didn't know you could do that, but she can, and I wish she'd shoot a bit more actually after that. But the final was really good. At the end there in the final, she was demanding the ball all the time and getting to her there, and then running the entire play from the centre of the midfield, putting it left or right, deciding where that was going. And she's only still 21, I think, so she's still really young. She's in the grand final in a clutch position, and she's going, "No, give me the ball. I'm going to run this. I'm going to run these plays. I'm going to put around there." So she's got a lot of talent. She's, as I say, she's technically very good, which you'd expect someone who come out of the Dutch league where she played before. Again, she's still not super strong in the tackle there. I'm not sure that's going to change, potentially, but she's got enough skill to be able to play around that, I think. And it was good that, I think, as you say, that we persisted with her, because you could have quite easily, after the first few games, saying, "Okay, she's getting knocked off the ball here. Let's put Daisy Brazendale in there or someone a bit stronger, who's going to stand up to that." But obviously Bev sees the technical class that she's got, and sees that she plays a role in there. So Jale, okay, you do the tackle, you win the ball, give it to Pannenberg, and then she can spread it out around the pitch. So I'd be really interested to see, how she develops, because she, again, a lot of potential there, I think.
Does anyone hazard a player of the season? So I think this is too hard to give. I think Michaela, incredible bang for her buck. She did miss a lot of big chances. She had 9 big chances missed across the league, which was second. Then again, she turned around, she scored 8 goals and all those assists. So yeah, she definitely scored a lot of the big goals, but she also missed a few. Brooke Nunn, I feel like she was outstanding. Sometimes I don't know whether to grade her down a little bit, because her discipline she only got 2 yellow cards the whole season, which I'm not sure. Vic Essen, Ali Walker got more yellow cards than her. Either way, no, Brooke is also up there, and I think Pia Vlok also has to be up there too. Pia's still young and has a long way to go, and it felt like she was the impetus for attack for a lot of our games, but she wasn't as complete. So all of these for me, and then there's Jale. Why am I forgetting about Jale? I can't pick. Can we pick? I don't know how to pick. They were all fucking excellent. Who wants to pick or hazard a guess, because they all deserve it, really.
I'll pick, and you're right, it's really difficult because the whole team had done so well. And if Michaela Woods had played a whole season and scored or assisted at the rate she did, then she would walk away with it. She'd have won everything everywhere, and she'd be able to play the season. But in terms of a player that has affected matches positively, every single game they've played, that has been one of the best players on the pitch consistently for the entire season, my criticism would go to Brooke Nunn. She's just been, just always there, always doing positively, always creating stuff and being there, or tackling, showing that, again, I can't believe she only got 2 yellow cards, because again, she does not shy away from a tackle, a 50-50, a 60-40, or a 70-30. She's going in there, and the other player's going to know their tackle, and that's great. And that will to win and that physicality is something which we really got this season, and that's really helped us. So she's just been so consistent. Never had a bad game. Never had a game where she went missing. Just always there. And, so for me, it'd be Brooklyn.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. It's really hard to pick who's our player of the season. I think games where Pia Vlok wasn't playing, you could really, really notice. I think we were quite predictable without her on the pitch, because if you mark out Brooke Nunn, we kind of lose our creative playmakers. But when she was on the pitch, I think in that second game against Brisbane Roar, completely different match when she started versus that first one in the semis when she was off for most of the game for injury. So I think her impact is definitely not noticed when she's not there. For Brooke Nunn, for Michaela Woods as well. Yeah, she missed a lot of chances, but I just think that she got herself into positions where she shouldn't have even had those chances in the first place. I think her work rate and just her hustle to kind of get into these gaps and to just kind of fight for every 50-50, to gamble on every ball. We we haven't really had a player who has done that before, and I think if we had her when we had, Annalie Longo putting in all of these big chances, and we had all these other, we've had these midfielders who've been putting in these chances, but we've never been able to get on the end of them. I think Michaela Woods is that player now who is there, and sure, she, has missed 9 big chances, but she's also bigger ones for us, which, doesn't go unnoticed. I think that, I don't recall her misses as much as I remember her scoring those 2 against Brisbane Roar. And so I think that she's had a huge impact. And yeah, if she played a full season, I think no doubt she would have cleared in this. But I have to agree with Danny that Brooke Nunn, I think, is probably our player of the season. Just someone who's has that experience as well. I think one of the only others who've played finals, and I think it really showed that she is up for it, and she knows how this league works. And sure, she's a little bit physical, she's a little bit mouthy, she can kind of do some stuff off the ball that if you were playing against her, it would absolutely grind your gears. But I love that. I love that part of football. I don't, this is supposed to be a professional league. You want these players to be doing everything they can to get under people's skin. And I think she's a perfect player for that. And I love watching her play. And I'm so glad that we have her and Michaela Woods back for another season, because they have been absolutely amazing for us and have been a nightmare for the other teams to contain. So very, very close. Grace Jarley's there as well, but obviously as we just talked about, she's a bit of one of those silent ones. But yeah, Brooke Nunn, I think, player of the season for me.
Well, seeing as I basically abstained anyway, it sounds like it's Brooke Nunn. So well done. But honestly, I think every player contributed in a really important way. I think even thinking about the fact that we only got 3 games out of Alyssa Wynnum, she got really stuck in with her film with Liz. You can find her on Instagram and the way that she supported the team. You could see some at games, Tesla behind the scenes still, CJ Bot behind the scenes. So yeah, massive. So let's talk about like how I guess we feel. I don't want to pin it all on Bev, but how the team sort of went overall, because I know that we had getting to that grand final was a massive achievement. We had some incredible moments. We finished second, which is in both parts. We finished second in the championship, second in the premiership. But I feel like we dropped the ball in some ways. I feel like I know that we had this really amazing sort of, in theory, starting team, and then 5 of them are away from illness, ACLs, pregnancy, and so we have all these replacements that have happened, which has been like obviously really disruptive, and that's something that's quite hard to come back from as a team. Some teams just they sort of fall apart after that kind of thing happens, and we were really sort of on a run, but we couldn't get that full consistency. We did get 4 wins in a row at one stage. But I think the bit that obviously it's frustrating to have lost the grand final, You've got that one game, you got your 90 minutes, and we lost. I wasn't sad about that. I was sad. I wasn't disappointed kind of thing. I was more disappointed that I feel like we flubbed our chance to win the actual regular season. I think whatever it was that happened in those 2 games, the loss to Mariners and then the inexplicable loss to Wanderers, like the wheels have come off there, and we can't afford to do that next season, because those 6, look, I mean, there's a good chance City would have won the league anyway, but we really shot ourselves in the foot with 2 teams, especially Wanderers, that didn't even make finals. How do you think the season sort of played out from a management coaching perspective?
I think it was good. I think you're right. We did lose a couple of games there, the second half of the season, and we shouldn't have done. But realistically, that's going to happen. Even Melbourne City lost they lost 4 games. I think over the season we lost 6. I think you have to remember that we started with a completely different team. We started with a different team, and then we had to rebuild it again. doing that, and this isn't a very short season. This is, the A-League is a really short season. There's not many games. And so the team that went through pre-season and we trained to play, and they were gone. And we had to get a whole new season in the middle of the season, get new players in, get them familiar with the system and the other players, and then start again. And we still finished second. I think Bev Priestman and the team around her, and the team, and the club itself for, getting the good injury replacement players, take a huge amount of credit for this season. Because realistically, had we not got those good injury players in, and would limp through to sort of fifth or sixth, we wouldn't have been able to complain, because, we just, that injury list was ridiculous. All our best players are out. So we wouldn't have been able to complain had we not done much this season at all. It'd have been, well, what do you expect? We've lost our 4 best players, So, you can't perform miracles. But actually, we did sort of perform miracles. We got players in who were even better, possibly, than the ones that we lost. And Bev Priestman turned them into a team and went through and got, again, second on the table and into the grand final. So I think Bev Priestman just instilled so much into that team, not just tactically, and she was pretty wary. She made some good changes that you could see definitely work, but just in a will to win in that team. You could see how much it meant when they lost, which is disappointing for them, but it's good to see that they did that. And the fact that they had belief that they could win, again against Brisbane, when we were nearly down and out, they never seemed to lose belief that they could come back and do it. And in the final as well, the way they fought in that second half, again, they're 3-0 down, it's over, but no, they kept coming back. They had 19 shots in that second half. They kept fighting all the way through, and that's down to the coach to get the right players and to get them in the right state of mind and to play for each other. So I think Bev Priestman takes a huge amount of credit out of this season, a huge amount, because she's had to rebuild the team halfway through the season and still come out with, the second best side in the league at least. So, yeah, I think the club should take an enormous amount of credit for this season, just in terms of the resources they've given Bev Priestman, the team around Bev Priestman, around the whole club, physios, coaches, etc., to get us as far as we did after so many setbacks, which would have knocked us out in previous seasons. It would have gone, okay, well, season's over, nothing we can do. But we did. We came back and we got to the final.
Yeah, I think there was a couple of results for the season that were probably our season killers. I think that Perth away loss where we conceded to an Olympico. At that stage, we probably had one of our strongest teams out there. We had CJ Watt still playing. Samba was still out there. That was probably our team, our set team for the season. So you think that we should, I know Perth away is a difficult place to go, but, we should be up for that. And I think losing that and then losing to Western Sydney at home, those to flip those 2 games into wins and we win the league, as well as holding on against Melbourne Victory in our first game against them away, flipping that from a 1-0 loss to a draw. And the league is ours. So I think that those results are probably the ones that killed us the most. And, we had all the chance in the world to win that. City lost the plot a little bit coming in that last few games where they lost to the Jets and had some other strange results as well. So, we did have our opportunities to win the league. And I think that that's what, was frustrating to me, is that, these are probably games that we shouldn't have lost. But I think that, is what it is. It's in the past now. You can't change those results. You can't stop getting Olympico now that it's happened. It sucks, especially because it's like 1 a.m. when you watch it and you're just like, this is a disaster. But I think, having to basically bring in a whole new squad halfway through is very difficult. And I think for us to kind of settle back in quite quickly after that is a huge testament to kind of the team and the coaching and the players themselves. I think, they speak very highly of the environment and how it's a very welcoming environment. The facilities are incredible and all of the staff are incredible. And so I think being able to assimilate players in quite quickly and, get back into it is a huge testament to the team. Yeah, and it'd be great to see what we can do from the start of a season when we have a whole team up, fit, ready to go. And, no ACLs in the first 45 minutes of the season would be nice.
Yeah, I think overall, I mean, I know I've played a little bit of devil's advocate leading into this conversation about Bev, but you're both right. she's done an incredible job. A big credit to her and Amy and I think Tony. They came into the Pink Lemonade after the game and spent some time with the fans. So I think this is an opportunity to talk about briefly about next season, because the great thing is that the investment that's come from the club, and that's particularly owners like Wellnix Group, they've made a 2-year program. They've signed Bev for 2 years. They are giving. We're one of the better funded women's teams in the league at this point. And better resource, not just funded, but better resource teams in the league. I think probably City still outdoes us, but we really are investing as a club. So thank you to everybody who does put into that, the owners and also the fans and the people who pay their hard-earned money to support. So what that leads us into is actually a really exciting second season. A lot of lessons have been learned. Things will settle in. Hopefully we have not quite the injury crisis this coming season that we did last time. I will run down who I think still has a contract for next season. I could be wrong, but I think we've got Michaela, Samba, Ali, Mac, Jale, Liz, Emma Main, Pia, CJ, Brooke Nunn, Tiana, Risa Fanami, Macy. Yeah. I think there's possibly some academy kids in there somewhere, but we've re-secured those really core players, and I think that's going to be really exciting. Thoughts about next season?
You've got to be pretty hopeful, right? As you say, that's pretty much the entire team locked in. They've played together. They'll be, very much used to each other. They'll have, you'd think, a will to win after, not winning it this time. They know each other. You've got to be really optimistic. There's no doubt we will be one of the favourites for the title next year. And I guess that's the one thing which is going to be difficult, is the expectation is going to be sky high. Because let's face it, we don't get to the final, it'll be considered a loss of the season, because a failure of the season. Because, we got to the final this year, we will expect that and no less next year. And I think it's a valid expectation, to be honest. And again, in terms of the kind of players we've got back, again, barring any ridiculous injury crisis again, we should expect to be there or thereabouts at the end of the season, and we would want to be there in the final. And I see no reason why we wouldn't be. Again, I have a huge amount of confidence that Bev Priestman can get the best out of these players. So other things being equal, which they rarely are, it's going to be a long season again. Long in a good way, as in we'll go deep, and we should be seeing some really good football, I think.
Yeah, it's really, really good to see the back three re-sign. I think having a solid set backline is really good going into a season, because that kind of like your core part of the team. I say as a centre back, I may be biased, but I'm not. And if you don't concede, then you don't lose, basically. And we know that we have also the quality re-signed up front. We have Brooke Nunn back. We have Michaela Woods back. Samba will show up eventually again. We, I think, have the players that we need to kind of set a good foundation for the team, and we just have to fill in the gaps now. We currently don't have a goalkeeper on contract, so hopefully that's something that we're looking for. It looks like Amy Danielle is coming off her contract this season, and Vic hasn't. Nothing's been said about Vic either. Not sure about Brooke Neary. She's probably around still, because I think she's. But so hopefully we kind of hear news about what's happening in the goalkeeping space soon, because I think that'll give some more confidence going in the season. But I'd like to see, as I said before, Emma Peinenberg get another shot if we can keep her around. I'd like to see us keep Minai Elliott on for a few more years. If we can. I think that she's got so much potential still. She's still so young, but she's been in this team for a long time now, and I think Bev can really get the best out of her before she goes off somewhere else. But I do think that she has a part to play in this team, and I'd love to see her stay, because I feel like I don't ever want to come up against her if she goes to another A-League team, because I know that she's deadly on the corners, and she can strike from distance as well. So should be a scary player to come up against. But yeah, other than that, I think that we have a very good foundation for a very solid competitive team next season. And I think with what we have, we should be, back in that top two again, if not the top. We'd probably still be battling out with City as well. Let's hope Holly Mack goes overseas. Yeah, and I think that we can win it. I did say at the start of the season we were going to win both, and I'm going to just push that prediction on to next year as well, because we were pretty damn close. And so I think that we can go all the way next season and do the double.
All the way, all the way. All right, one last thing. Briefly, your best moment of the season.
I think it's going to be the winner in the semi, isn't it? And Michaela Woods, when the cross comes in, and then the defender misses it, and it's like, oh my God, she's got it. So that was pretty good, because it was like, is this going to happen? And it's like, yeah, it is.
To do something different to Danny, I'm going to say that 7-0 win against Sydney FC. If you had told me 5 years ago that Sydney were going to come to Wellington and we'd put 7 past them, I would have told you you're just taking the absolute piss. But that game was absolutely incredible, and I think that was kind of, I'd say, a bit of a turning point for us. I think we were kind of struggling to get goals up until then. And then I was like, whoa, like, what is happening? The floodgates are open. We are in this, and we have the opportunity to put some real scores up there and do some damage. I think, notably this season we had 14 different goal scorers, which is the most that we've had in any season. So the goals can come from anywhere, but putting 7 past the most successful team in the A-League women's history, it's peak.
Well, I think it's hard to go past that home semi, and I agree. I think, both of the goals were great, but I think that full-time whistle moment was incredible. Erin and I were both in the fever. Ethan rips a smoke flare, falls down. The zone is just going crazy. It was fantastic, the whole game. But that moment where we were just like, oh my God, we have made the grand final. So many moments. So we've talked for quite a long time today. Thank you so much for joining us. We will be back soon to do a men's season review. Other than that, thank you for joining us.